Hi everyone, it's Lisa Oliver here, and we're going to have a bit of a fan noise in the background today because, as you can see from that cute little scene over there, my puppies are trying to get cool. It's a very hot day here today and they really don't appreciate the muggy weather. But anyway, so we can put this back up on here. Hi there, my name is Lisa Oliver, and in case you've forgotten, I write books. How's it going? Today I wanted to talk about what was stopping you from writing your book. That's right. I knew I was doing something. Got something on my screen. I don't know what it is. Oh, I see. Oh, so look at that. Isn't that interesting? I can be bright, bright. I can be dark, dark. I'll tell you, when you get to my age, dark, dark's actually a friend. But never mind. Hopefully that'll go away. But never mind. Okay. So, one of the most common questions I get asked is, how do you write a book? And unfortunately, I'm not normally very helpful when people ask me that, because I tend to say, well, you sit down, you find some sort of writing material or instrument, and you use it, because, you know, that's how writing books happens. You usually have an idea, it helps, but it doesn't have to be that big an idea. When I first started writing, the first fiction book that I wrote was The Reluctant Wolf, which was book one in the Cloverleaf Pack series. And at the time, I had this loose idea in my head. It was going to be about 5 guys. They were all gay, obviously. They were a small, tiny pack. They had their own mechanic shop. They used to do up bikes, all the sorts of things I loved. And that one by one they would meet their mates. And I'd found myself a couple of pictures. I found pictures for the first 2 main characters that I wanted. There was Cain the Alpha and Sean, who would be the guy that he would meet. And that's kind of like about as far as I'd gone in my head. So I wrote my first book as part of the Nanowrimo challenge. That was back in 2013. And I'd never done it before. So there I am, sitting there on the 1st of November. And at the time, back in 2014, or it might have been 13, you were expected to write 3,000 words a day with the idea that you'd have 90,000 words done by the end of the month. I had never written fiction before. Sorry, it's my dogs. I had never sort of thought about what it would take to write fiction. And so I sat down, I opened up a Word document, and I was looking for the name of the pack, and I'm thinking, we have a margarine brand here called Meadowlee, and so for some reason I came up with Cloverleaf, so there we go, that's how I got Cloverleaf. And then I thought, sort of typed, you know, the words, chapter 1. Still didn't know what to write. Then I thought, oh, I really feel like a cup of tea. And so I went and made a cup of tea. Then I went and sat down. I thought, oh, it's about 3 o'clock. Probably should have had lunch. That is why Cain was going to get a late lunch at the beginning of the book. Because I didn't eat lunch. I started writing. And from that idea that Cain needed lunch, I got 13 full novels and 2 short story books, which now form the now finished Cloverleaf series book. So when people say to me, well, I want to write, but I don't know what to write about. Okay. Instead of thinking to yourself, well, what do you know? Which is a common thing for non-fiction writers. But for fiction writers, there's no point in writing what you know, because I'm not a wolf shifter. I do not know how to ride a motorcycle. And although I have a couple of tattoos, I couldn't fix a bike to save myself. So there's no point in me writing what I knew. I wrote what I enjoyed. So when you're thinking about a fiction book you want to write, think about, what do you enjoy? That adage that I've actually got a t-shirt for in my Etsy shop says, write the book you want to read. I had been reading books back then by Stormy Glenn, Charlie Richards. Actually, there's so many, and it's not fair because there's a whole stack of really awesome authors I could name here. And because I'm staring at a video camera, they've gone completely out of my head. But there was a lot of amazing authors. They're still amazing. They're still writing today. And I thoroughly enjoy their work. But while I was reading, and what got me into writing was I'd started to thought, well, a lot of the authors I was reading were being published by a publisher. So they had to be like 100 pages long, the books. And I kept thinking, well, what if we added a bit more? What if we did this? What if we did that? So I already kind of had it in my head when I decided to do the Nanowrimo challenge. And so I think that's where that came from. But the book, The Reluctant Wolf, which was my first ever book, was the book I wanted to read. And in hindsight, it was shocking. Apparently it had a pretty cool storyline, but I didn't get it edited before I put it up. Huge no-no. The cover design was crap. I was a person who was born in England, living in New Zealand, writing a book set in America. So you can imagine that I used a lot of wrong words for all sorts of things. And a lot of the negative reviews I got on that first book was about the fact that I really should have gotten the book edited first. But the thing is, it sold. And the other thing is it didn't really matter to me because I was already writing book 2. And by the time book 2 had come out, I was already halfway through book 3. So the thing is that I wanted to write the book I wanted to read, and I've done it 80 times so far. That's 80. Yeah, I've got 80 books to my name so far. But I didn't actually intend on making a living out of it. And this is something else. When people say to me, oh, they want to write a book, I want to know why, but not in that sort of, oh, why? What makes you think you can write a book? Because I believe everybody can. But in the idea of, do you want to make a lot of money? In which case I'd suggest you do something else. Do you want fame and fortune? Again, I would suggest you do something else. I understand TikTok's taking off like crazy. Or did you want to write a book that you felt passionate about? In which case, hey, sit down, I'll give you a hand. For me, and I can only talk about this now because it's actually been 8 years distance. But for me, at the time when I wrote my first book, my marriage was breaking up. My 16-year marriage was on the rocks. It was breaking up. And I wanted to write about the sort of love I dreamed of, that I believed I deserved. So I wrote that. I'm still writing that 80 books later. My marriage disintegrated in 2014. While I was writing, I felt so sorry for the characters in book 4 of the Cloverleaf series, Carmen the Enforcer. Poor Anton he had PTSD and he went through hell. And that was probably because me, the author, was going through hell at the time. And then I got to book 5, which was about the Amiga, Dean. And my readers by that stage were already getting in touch with me, and they were telling me they really, really wanted for Dean to have a lovely story, because the readers already knew that, he'd been abused, he'd had a horrible life, and he'd been picked on all his life, and then Cain had found him and saved him, and he really deserved somebody absolutely amazingly wonderful as his mate. And the pressure. And as I say, my marriage was finished. I was having to work out how the heck to support myself. And and then I had this pressure to write this amazing story about this really wonderful character I'd created. And so I sat down and was determined to write a really happy book. And I like to think I did it. It actually worked. But the point in all this rambling and me sharing my own experiences is that we all come to want to write for different reasons. I write now to share the love I believe we all deserve. I might not have found it, but it doesn't stop me believing in it. It doesn't stop me wanting to share it. It doesn't stop me caring about the characters. I mean, I have 3 amazing children, grown now, obviously. I have, I think it's 7 grandchildren at the moment, whom I adore. But I also have, I believe, close to 200 characters that I've created, over 80 books. Men I've invested a part of my soul in, men I've given my heart to, men who've looked for love, men who've shunned love, men who wanted love and then it slapped them in the face and they didn't even recognise it. Some of my characters, my friends tell me, or my readers who are really amazing, they'll tell me, oh, I really wanted to smack him around the head. All those reasons, that's why I write, okay? Because I have readers that write to me and say, oh, I could have taken Colton, I could have just smacked him around the ear rolls, but he came right in the end, because my characters usually do. And so if somebody said to me, you know, it's not a question for me anymore, I sit down and write. But you need to think for yourself. If you're going to start writing, honestly, the only way to write a book is to sit down and do it. You have to start it. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it has to follow a logical sequence. And that's a book. That's all there is to it. But it's also one of the hardest things anybody could do. So, this is your homework for today. Think about why you want to write a book. Do you want to share a story? Do you want to create characters other people will fall in love with? Or more importantly, that you'll fall in love with? Do you just love the idea? Have you read books and are you already starting to think to yourself, but what if X did Y instead of Z? I think every writer, every author comes to what they do differently, but every single writer does the same thing. They sit down and they start writing. So if you want to write a fiction book, then that's kind of what you need to do. You need to sit down, you need to type those words, chapter 1, and start writing. Jump straight into the story, incidentally. We do not need to hear about windswept moors and the moon rising or a moonless night and things like that. They might make for really amazing literary stories, but if you want to write fiction that people will be entertained by and gripped by and enjoy, then you want character-driven plots instead of place-driven plots. So jump your characters and think of something that your character's doing right here, right now. Type chapter 1 and write that scene. And don't forget, when you get to the end of the chapter, make sure the reader's thinking, what happens next? Because that's how you'll get them to turn your page. Apparently, on this YouTube thing, I meant to say things like subscribe, hit like if you enjoy it, comment below if you want to write a book of your own. Maybe we can do a class or something. I don't know. But, yeah, so have I covered it all? Subscribe, hit like, share if you feel like it, if you've got friends that want to giggle, because this video thing is going to take me a bit to learn. But hey, it's 2022 and we can do anything, right? So me, I'm learning how to YouTube. You want to write a book. So you go and type chapter 1 and get started, and I'll go and work out how to upload this to YouTube. Have a brilliant day. Hug the ones you love. and come back and see me real soon. Bye.